Welcome to the AFN Sports Arena with Jantzee and Tory. I'm your host, Jantzee Ellis, and I'm joined in the AFN Okinawa studio by Air Force Staff Sergeant Tory Kuzumano.
Konnichiwa, Jantzee.
What's up in the world of Tory today?
Ooh, just trying to stay dry out there.
Yeah, it's a wet one out there. It's kind of dreary, huh?
Girl, you right.
I'm not too bad myself. I'm pretty excited.
I was going to ask,
weekend.
I promise.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll offer it up, keep things moving. But I'm excited. It's almost the weekend, and this is a good weekend, even though it's rainy. It's championship weekend.
Conference championships. And boy, it's going to be hard to beat last week.
Yeah, this is an exciting week. So we have a lot of different storylines brewing up right now. And of course, football is, I can't believe there's only 2 weekends left of football. Isn't that sad?
Depressing.
Until fall.
I know. Football goes by so fast. All these other sports, baseball's got 1,000 games
Most
a
of the
season.
year it's playing.
And don't get me wrong, I love baseball, basketball, hockey. But football only takes up, 4 months, 3 months? It's so sad.
And it just goes by so quickly, and it's so exciting. I think that's what keeps us hooked, though. And
yes.
And that's why every game matters
so much. There's so much riding on the games.
Exactly.
It's pressure-packed.
So this just means we'll have to make the most out of what we have left. And we have, like you said, a lot to talk about because this last weekend was amazing. It was divisional weekend. Which game was the biggest surprise for you? I think the answer's pretty obvious.
I think we all know it was the Jaguars going into Pittsburgh. Version 2.0.
The freaking Jacksonville Jaguars bested Big Ben and the Steelers at Heinz Field in what ended up being shootout. And now all the Steelers fans are wiping their tears away once again with their terrible towels.
That's a shame. For the Jaguars, it's like a case where a team earns a reputation. It's like the Browns. Everyone knows the Browns are terrible.
Yeah.
So for a couple of decades now, you think
they're
of the
always
Jaguars,
the bottom dwellers.
They've made the playoffs like a couple of times, but they've never made it to the AFC Championship game. I don't think.
And been good enough to be there.
It
like,
all
not just on a
started,
fluke.
Jantzee, when Tom Coughlin came over to the Jaguars, not as coach, but just as president of football operations or whatever the exact title is that he holds. He has imprinted himself on that organization. I think we're going to see.
It's funny you said that because
Jags
later on when we talk about the upcoming game, I'll tell you about how Tom Coughlin, I think, ties into this a little bit. It's very reminiscent of
wait a minute, Tom Coughlin.
Yeah, you know where I'm going with that. Okay, save it.
All right.
Brew on that for a minute.
I will.
Let you get your mind blown.
Ruminate.
So let's recap. As you said, as we remember, the Jags already handed the Steelers a blowout at home back in October, intercepting Roethlisberger 5 times.
You said what? 5 times?
5 times, which does not happen often. And Pittsburgh has been running their mouths ever since, saying that they wanted the Jags to make it back to them, and it wouldn't happen again. Well, they did make it back, and it totally looked like it was going to play out the same way, with the Jags jumping out to a 21-0 lead. And then Big Ben was picked off again and proceeded to lose a fumble, which again is very rare for him.
Yep.
Which Jags linebacker Telvin Smith returned for 50 yards to put Jacksonville up 28-7 with 2 minutes remaining in the first half.
Oh man, the route is on.
And the Jaguars then became the first visiting team since 2002 to score at least 30 points at Heinz Field twice in the same season.
You do not go into Heinz Field and score a lot of points, Jantzee.
Twice in one season.
Especially
if your name's the Jags.
Jaguars.
Yeah.
Jacksonville Jaguars. They're like a JV team going in there.
Or so we thought.
Right.
So everybody thought.
Right.
But the Steelers weren't going to go away quietly this time. Receiver Antonio Brown finished with 7 catches for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Roethlisberger threw for 469 yards and set a franchise record with 5 touchdown passes. You think that'd be enough, right?
Right.
But it seemed the Jags had an answer to every score, and it was just too little too late, and it didn't help that Pittsburgh lived and died by the 4th down. Didn't it seem like it was always 4th down?
It did seem that way. It was in what you said about Jaguars always having an answer. They were playing like the ones who have been in like 20 AFC championship games. They were playing like the Steelers
with
should
Bortles,
have been playing.
Who is erratic.
The oft-maligned Blake Bortles, who just the week prior had more rushing yards than he did passing yards in a game. And then they go and hang 45 on the Steelers.
And then the Steelers OC, Todd Haley, made a few highly questionable calls.
Oh, may he rest in peace.
I mean, Big Ben isn't just a cute nickname. The man is 6'5", 240 pounds. Let the man lean forward for 1 yard to get the first down.
It's like Jerome Bettis playing quarterback.
Right? Instead of being cute with a toss sweep to Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah,
it was
with
doomed
this
to
misdirection. And I am a huge fan of trickery, but situational trickery. And this situation was the wrong situation.
Like, let the man
trickery.
Give him a push. Right. Let him get a yard. Live to play another down.
Mathematicians were in their house going, oh, God.
That doesn't make sense. I know. But none of that matters now. The Jags beat the Steelers 45-42, which when I saw that score, I was like, no, that can't be right.
I thought it was one of those cases where like the person running the graphics hit the wrong button.
Yeah, like switched them or something.
Okay, yeah. So it was 42-4.
Yeah.
Or something like that. I know you can't score 4. Well, 2 safeties.
Yeah, 2 safeties.
Anyway.
It's possible. Yeah.
It was surprising. That's the point. Very surprising.
It was. And the Jags are headed to face the New England Patriots in the AFC Championship game. What a time to be alive.
What a time it is.
Crazy. Can you imagine Jacksonville? I mean, they have to be just losing their minds right now.
And I have to look it up, but I don't think they've ever been to the AFC title game. I think they've only ever made it to divisional. Yeah. And we talked about this subject a lot on this podcast of being sick and tired of the same old teams. I'm so
excited.
Getting
close. Yeah, we're getting what we asked for, kind of.
Jacksonville. Come on. If they go in there and beat New England, it's legendary.
Oh, it's legend.
So wait for it. Dairy.
Okay. How I Met Your Mother right there. And as long as we're talking about the Patriots, that was pretty much the only matchup this past weekend that lacked excitement and was no surprise. Yeah. That's how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brady sent the Titans and their Cinderella season off into the sunset without much contest. It didn't help that quarterback Marcus Mariota suffered a quad injury in the first quarter.
Tough for a running quarterback.
Yeah, exactly, which he's the centerpiece of Tennessee's offense. He's the spark. He's everything they need, forcing them to alter their scheme on the fly against the greatest minds in football.
Yeah, not only do you have to alter your scheme, but you have to deal with the emotional letdown too, seeing your leader, your
all
field
the gas,
general, just wind out of the sails.
And the Patriots cruised past the Titans 35-14 to secure their place in yet another AFC Championship game. But we have a little hope. I have a little hope. After I've done a little research today, I have a little hope. I'll tell you about that.
Okay.
Keep teasing it.
Okay.
I'm pretty excited.
I like this.
And then on the NFC side of things, we got the chance to witness one of the most exciting walk-off miracle TDs in a long time.
Jantzee, my jaw was on the floor.
Like,
I was
did you
so
see
shocked.
The memes of like the Saints fans who are just like staring at their TV still? Like, what happened?
No, have you seen the memes of that player?
Yes.
The defensive back who
Did you see the Simpsons one?
whipped?
The guy jumping through the window head first.
Did you? I saw one where they had Stone Cold Steve Austin like doing a wrestling move on the guy.
It just looked so weird. You know?
What was he doing?
I know.
You know what it reminds me of, Jantzee? And I hate to bring up a sore memory, but this reminds me of the Ravens when they had the Hail Mary at the end in the 2012 playoffs against us, and our safety was waving at the sky, whatever he was doing.
That's what possessed.
That guy's going to have to live with that forever. I've seen people like cut him out and put him into like dance clubs. Like he's just.
I heard he had to shut down all his social media because he was getting like death threats and everything. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Is too much.
Yeah, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about what actually happened.
Yes, what happened in the game?
So Case Keenum's pass to Stephon Diggs, last second in the fourth quarter, aided by, like we said, a pretty embarrassing tackle attempt, was somehow caught and ran in. I think it was especially surprising because the Vikings were only down 24-23 and on the 39-yard line on a 3rd and 10 with 10 seconds left on the clock. All they had to do was just move it to, set it up for a field goal. But, I mean, they do have kind of a peppered history with game-winning field goals.
Well, and they were on their own 39-yard line.
Yeah.
So it's not like they were in field goal range. So they had to. That's what they were doing is they were trying to get down there.
Yeah.
And then old boy just whiffed.
All or nothing.
On the tackle.
There
and Stephon Diggs turns around and goes, "What? Merry Christmas."
Because even then, with only a few seconds left on the clock, you're like, can they get something together? Can they get it, where it needs to be?
Right, exactly. Because that's why they threw it to the sideline. So he could step out right away. And then it was just, I've never.
And they just needed that field goal to win it. It's not like, it was 1 point. And like we said, but Minnesota does have kind of a bad history with game-winning field goal attempts.
Yes, they do.
But still, that seemed like the safe option. Now, this had to have been even more crushing for Drew Brees and the Saints, seeing that they had just rallied from a 17-point deficit and thought they had just scored the game-winning points with a 43-yard field goal with 25 seconds remaining. Unfortunately, it wasn't their storybook day.
It's just a fluke, man. That's the type of thing that starts to make you think you're a team of destiny. Like, this might just be our year.
Yeah.
And when you look at that NFC title game, Jantzee, the Vikings got a real good chance
at home
to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl.
Now it's just one more win against the Eagles, and the Vikings will become the first team to play in a Super Bowl on their home turf. And instead of the usual win or go home, they're in a win and go home situation.
Oh, that's never happened before.
No, never
in
in history.
Well, they've
been close a couple
choice.
times. There's been a couple times where they're like, "Oh, this could be the year." Something always happens.
You know how they sound. That was a good impression of them.
Thank you. That's what they/them usually always sound like that. And now for the Eagles, who obviously spent the majority of the season as the Super Bowl favorites in the NFC, but then suffered a season-ending injury to their star QB, therefore leaving them with the mediocre Nick Foles.
May he rest in peace.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz,
Wentz.
not Nick Foles.
Yeah, he'll be back. He has a bright future.
Yes, he does.
That hurts.
24 years of age, having an MVP season, already set the record for most touchdown passes in a season by the Eagles quarterback.
I know.
But
and not even get to finish the season.
He will be back. And you know what? The Eagles have a very good all-around team. We've been talking about this a lot, too.
You don't make it all the way up but from one player.
They're going to give them everything they got.
Yeah.
We know that.
And the Eagles were able to keep the Falcons from any chance at redemption from last year's Super Bowl loss against the Patriots. The game against the Eagles and Falcons also came down to the wire. This game was in Philly, and the Falcons made their comeback, only down 15-10 with a minute left, driving deep in Eagle territory. But with everything on the line, the play that Atlanta OC Steve Sarkisian called out was odd to say the least. He sent all of the receivers to one crowded side of the end zone to be smothered and gave Matt Ryan no room to work with. So, of course, he just tossed it up to Julio Jones on a prayer, and he couldn't come down with it. Even Eagles defensive back Malcolm Jenkins said that they knew what the Falcons were going to run all along, just based on preparation.
Well, I mean, right. And they know they got to get in the end zone. Why are you
That's embarrassing.
taking the spacing away and not allowing your players to go up and make a play? I think what he wanted to happen was one of those Hail Mary situations where the ball gets tipped up.
Yeah.
And then the one guy swoops in underneath and catches it
and
and ducks into the end zone. But when you're planning
that's putting all your eggs in one basket.
Oh, yeah, man. I would have put I would have put Julio Jones on one side of the field by
spread
himself.
Him out.
And give him a one-on-one chance. Not that they would have covered him one-on-one, but I'd still take that over.
You'd have to spread people out because you have to keep them honest.
Right. I'd still take that over the mosh pit that happened in the end zone there.
And that has to sting a little bit, knowing that you're that predictable. But it is what it is, and now the Eagles are one game away from the Super Bowl. So here we are, 4 left standing, and we have the AFC and NFC championship games this weekend. The AFC championship between the Jaguars and Patriots will be first up, airing at 5 a.m. local Japan time on AFN Sports, and the NFC showdown between the Eagles and Vikings will follow at 8:30 a.m.
It's going to be a couple of really good games, Jantzee.
I hope so. I know the first one will be good.
I'm really looking forward to it.
I know. I'm pretty excited too. Okay, so prediction and preview time. Do the Jags have any chance at knocking off the Patriots? We heard that Tom Brady injured his throwing hand in practice this week when a teammate ran into it. But is that just something silly that won't matter? Maybe just narrow the betting margins a bit? Or will trading Jimmy Garoppolo away earlier this season come back to haunt them?
It's so tough to tell because the Patriots play so many mind games before the game even begins. And that's one thing I love about them.
And something I read is that Tom Brady is on the injury report every single week. People just don't notice it.
Yeah, for like years.
For random things, he's on every single week.
Hamstring injury every week, limited in practice, or whatever the case is, questionable or probable to play in the game.
He hardly practices.
So this could be that. I don't know what the end game would be, like hoping that maybe the Jags take a little bit of time game planning for the Patriots' current backup instead of Jimmy Garoppolo, they're wasting practice time. But I don't know.
But there's still so much. I mean, is the Jags defense good enough to contain Gronk and make up for Bortles?
That question is going to decide the entire game. They don't physically have anybody that is as big or fast as Gronk. They have a couple of guys that are almost as big, and they have a couple of guys who are as fast.
But nobody can
cover him one-on-one. So if they bracket him or if they can figure out a way to neutralize him while not giving up all the other parts of the defense, then they have a good shot at winning this game, Jantzee, because they are a very good defense.
Yeah.
The two things are covering Gronk, getting pressure in Tom Brady's face.
Okay,
that's how we can beat them.
So this is what I was.
The Jags, not
this is what I was alluding to earlier. A lot of people are saying that Jacksonville's front four are very reminiscent of the New York Giants front four that stopped Brady in the 2007 and 2011 Super Bowls.
I don't care if you're Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, John Elway, Brett Favre, Johnny Unitas. You get pressure in their face, and a quarterback cannot do anything.
No. You take away your time, take away your composure. I don't care how long you've been in the league. If you're hit a couple times by some really big men, you feel it. It's human instinct to feel rushed. And I don't know. That is we like to say, Eli beat the Patriots twice. It was that defense.
And a couple, like the snappy moments were from Eli.
Yeah.
But it was definitely defense
and
wins
see, Bortles doesn't
championships.
really have that. Bortles, at least we haven't seen.
We don't know. Legends are made
yes, they
on
are.
Championship Sunday, Jantzee.
But
let's
who knows?
go.
Coughlin, obviously, he was, the Giants coach.
Right.
Who knows what he has in his pockets? He's
the only one
beat Tom Brady
who
twice.
Really seems to have their number
in the Super Bowl. So
right.
I'm getting more excited for that. People are like, oh, the Patriots.
No, I'm getting worked up. I saw an article the other day. Patriots have easiest path to Super Bowl of any team in the past 20 years. People are sleeping on these Jaguars.
Yeah, they have been all season.
And even
the Steelers did,
walking
even after
into
they got
Heinz
beat.
Field and putting up 45 points, they're still sleeping on them, Jantzee.
Yes.
And that is my prediction.
Okay.
The Jaguars are taking them down.
Okay. My heart wants the Jags to win, but my logical brain says we might be seeing yet another Patriots
but I'm
Super Bowl.
I'm going with the heart on this one, Jantzee.
Okay, the heart wants what it wants. And then we have the Eagles and Vikings. Kind of refreshing to see two relatively new names in the big games, don't you think?
Well, yeah. Historically, both these teams.
Yeah, they're both good teams.
But in recent, as in the past 5 years or so, it is nice to not see the Falcons in there.
Yeah.
Or the Saints or all these teams that have always been
Packers
in there.
or something like that, or the Seahawks.
Oh, God, the Seahawks.
See, it's refreshing. It feels kind of nice because either one of these, you're like, oh, that'd be a good story.
And you know what?
Cool.
Yeah, and I would root for either of these teams.
I want whoever can beat the Patriots.
Oh, God.
But if not, I kind of want the Jags.
No, if the Jags win the AFC Championship, regardless of who wins the NFC, I'll be going for the Jags in the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. I think everybody will.
I think
That's a big bandwagon.
have the best chance, the Vikings, to beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. And I just
and
kind
they'll
of
be at
like
home,
the Vikings.
And that'll just be kind of cool. At home.
It would be very cool for them. So that's who I predict will win the game because I think Nick Foles can't put a team on his shoulders, and I think the Vikings defense is going to take away the running game and try to force him to do just that. Yeah. So that's what's going to happen, and the Vikings are going to be the first team to play in the Super Bowl on their home field.
We will see. We'll know. By next week, we'll know, and we'll have – obviously, they take a week off after the AFC NFC championships.
So plenty of time to
build up the hype.
Postulate
and the Super Bowl.
Hypothesize.
So we'll have plenty of time. Well, we shall see. I can't wait. If this last weekend showed us anything, we're in for at least one great game.
Yeah. 50% of last week's games were amazing.
The second one can go either way. But that's going to have to do it for us today. Thanks for joining us in the AFN Sports Arena. We hope to have you back next time. Have a great weekend. Stay safe out there. And don't forget, you have to look good to play good.